Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight at Midori Farm Talk number 8, talking about balancing farm and family. My name is Chuck Kayser. I am the owner and founder of Midori Farm in Kyoto and Kutsuki, which is in Shiga Prefecture. A little bit about myself. I'm married to a lovely Japanese woman. We live in Kyoto City, and we have a 10-year-old son. My farm locations are in Keihoku, which is a bit north of Kyoto City, as well as in Kutsuki, which is also north of Kyoto City in the mountains of Shiga. I've been growing vegetables organically for a little more than 10 years, quite seriously for the past 5 as far as selling and making it something more important in my life. I grow 60 or 70 different kinds of vegetables. I don't grow rice. I don't grow any fruits except for some watermelons and things like that. I used to be a teacher. I taught in Japan for about 22 years. I taught in the States for 3 years. But just this year, I decided to give up teaching to try to do my Midori farm full time. I believe that farming is very important, not only for myself, but for my community and the environment. Because if we can produce our food sustainably, then we can really reduce our impact on the environment. And it seems evidently clear, the evidence is clearer and clearer every year that our impact on the environment is becoming quite bad. I'd like to turn over to our guests now. I've been very fortunate to recruit 2 lovely ladies who are also farmers. We have Heather Fukase in Nagano, from Nagano naturally, and Hamachie from Hamachie Nouen, I believe that's how you say it, in Keihoku, which is right next to my farm. So I get to see Chie almost every week, which is nice. But this is my first time to meet Heather, so I'm going to turn the floor over to her so she can introduce herself. Hello, Heather.
Hello. Wow, after that introduction, I feel very unworthy. If you want to show the first slide, Chuck. Okay. So yeah, my name is Heather Fukase. I'm not half. My husband is Japanese. And oh, no, that's not the first slide. Technical difficulties. We're farmers, not IT people. Okay. Yes. So in the top left, that's my family. I live with my husband and my 2 daughters. On the left, Amy is 16, and on the right, Meg is 18. In Australia, I was a Japanese teacher, and I've been living in Japan for just a bit over 20 years. And I have been an ALT. I have taught everyone from ages 0, literally 0, to I think my oldest student was 87. I now teach at an eikaiwa in the afternoon, and these are 2 of my gorgeous students carving some of my pumpkins. So it brings farming and teaching all together. As Chuck said, I live in Nagano. On the bottom left is the view from my rice field, and that's actually not the Chuo Alps. Those are the little baby mountains. The big ones are behind me, but we can't see them because we're too close. So driving home, anywhere we go, when we come home, we go, gee, we live in a beautiful place. But we actually can't see it from where we are. And on the bottom right is one of my fields. This field shows a little bit about what I grow. There's a lot of annuals, and then in the middle there's rhubarb, and then at the back there's artichoke, and there's also asparagus and more rhubarb. So I grow a mix of annuals and perennials, and things that grow in Nagano. Next slide, please. So one of the questions I had was like, what do you grow? And then what's your favorite crop? And I spent way too long thinking about this question because we live seasonally. So everything we grow, we eat. ourselves, and we only eat the vegetables that we grow. So I process a lot of things, but I don't ever buy vegetables other than mushrooms, which means that we eat what's in season or what's in the freezer or what I've put in jars, which means every vegetable is my favorite, because tomatoes, the first tomato of the season is amazing. The first kale of the season is amazing. The first everything is amazing. So I really can't choose a favorite as such, but fun to grow. I love kale because even in Nagano, it's the first crop in spring. It actually doesn't die over winter, so we can eat it. And then it grows all year. Not the same kale, I have to replant, but with succession planting, I can eat kale all year round. And there's not many other vegetables that I can do that. So other jobs, as I mentioned, I also teach, and that's really important to me. I work alone most of the time, which means that I'm likely to never leave the field. My kids probably wouldn't get fed if I didn't have an actual time that I have to leave. The number of times I'm like, I'll just do one more row. I'll just do one more this, one more that. And I just never, I never have had enough. So I know that I have to leave the field by 3:30, have a shower, get dressed. And I also get to talk to people. At the moment, I mainly teach kinder and elementary school, and they're my people. They think I'm funny. They love my jokes. My own kids are like way too old. They just roll their eyes. So I re-energize from being with little kids. And then the next day I go out in the field and I have my peace, and I do my thinking and my listening to podcasts. And then by 3:30, I've had enough of my own thoughts. Yeah, so these are some of the crops that I grow. So the top left is our rice field. We have santambu, which I don't know in metric how much it is, but it's a lot. It's enough for our family, my husband's family, and then we also sell rice. Below that is garlic. I like to grow storage crops because of where we live. We don't grow anything in winter. So I grow garlic and potatoes, a lot of garlic and potatoes, because we need a year's worth. Rhubarb is one of my favorites just because it's so easy, and it gets knocked down by a frost in early spring and it just comes back. And then the during the summer it's too hot, but then in autumn it comes back, and I feel like I really like that kind of vegetable, a vegetable with that kind of spirit. And at the top is wheat, and wheat is really, we tried to have like a closed system. So we use the wheat. We keep some of the wheat back for seed wheat for our own next year crop. We eat it, we sell it, and then we use the straw. So we try to use the straw all around the rhubarb, around the apple trees, around the asparagus, around the artichokes, all of the perennial crops. And then we also use the straw we keep hens for eggs. So some of the straw in the winter, it goes into there. And then also just any like leftover straw when the next either rice or wheat, anything that's been left over, we till into the ground. So I think those kind of things are really important for us, because we don't use any additives and we don't use any chemicals. Other than water, there's always. So yeah, I sell everything. I think I'm a little unusual in that I sell everything via the post office. I think I have one customer who I don't send their produce to them. And I didn't start out to have a business. I was like a guerrilla produce provider. I just used to randomly send my friends boxes of vegetables, and a couple of people were like, can you send me some more and I'll pay you, because I grow like beetroot and rhubarb and Australian pumpkin and things that are a little more difficult to find in Japan. So people were like, I would love some more, can you sell it? And then a neighbor, we had a typhoon coming during apple season, and a neighbor who's the majority of their money is from apples lost a lot of their yearly income. And she asked if I knew anyone who would buy apples. And I put out, I'm a member of a group called AFWJ, which is the Association of Foreign Wives in Japanese. And I did via Facebook Messenger. I sold about 250 kilos of apples, which was ridiculous and really, really hard. And now I have a website. So yeah, this was a business that came around backwards. Um, the processes we use on our farm, we do have a tractor and we do use plastic. No-till is something I'm interested in, but I think we have too much land for me to do it by myself. And plastic, again, is something I'd love to move away from. And we're actually moving more towards reusable plastic. So it's more, I think it's Japanese people sell it as a weed mat, and you can burn holes in it and then roll it up and use it again. But it's a necessary evil. It's just that I cannot weed enough, and I don't want to reduce what I grow. So watering is kind of interesting. If you look at the tractor picture, behind the tractor, there's a silver pole. Those are sprinklers, but I don't control them. We have neighborhood sprinklers that someone makes a decision based on the health of apple trees, because all around me, if you can see in the back of all of these photos, there's apple trees. So I can get water when I want it. I cannot get water when I want it. And sometimes I can get water the day before we were planning on harvesting the wheat. So I don't have any control. So in the bottom right, you can see we have a 100-liter orange plastic container, and we also have free high pressure water that comes out, hoses that are up and down the street. And we just fill it up, and then I use watering cans to water, but I only water when I plant. Otherwise I dry farm, except for the wet season and the sprinklers. So it's not really a system. It's a no watering, but also not dry farming. So a lot of what we do, we have a philosophy, but it doesn't work. Balancing farming with family. These are all before she started kinder. So this is Amy when she was 2 years old. And she's carrying my bag of seeds, and she's carrying her own little farm tool. In the middle, her job was to find cabbage moth caterpillars on the cabbages and bring them home and feed them to the chooks, which was a great way of keeping her occupied. But it meant that when the kinder teacher first showed her a caterpillar, she squashed it. It was a bit of an event. I had something I had to explain to the kinder teacher. And also, they've always been able to just go and grab whatever they wanted to eat. She's also dirty in every single photo. My kids spent most of their life covered in dirt. But yeah, basically, as they got older, they wanted more jobs to do. In the top corner, Meg is helping build the chook cage. In the bottom, Amy has just finished hoshoku, which is where you go along and put in the rice that the machine missed. At the top, they were both planting onions for me. At the bottom, finding cute vegetables was a really big deal for my kids for ages. And so they would go through like the whole harvest and find like the funny shaped one, and then they'd get to eat it. And again, it was a great balance for me, because while they were doing that, they were safe and not in my way. And then in the bottom right, as they got older again, being in charge of the harvest day picnic or planting day picnic, and they're way better at presenting food and organizing lunch than I am. I'm more like energy over pretty, whereas they're much more like we should try and set it out pretty. So yeah, they're and then also if they want pocket money in elementary school, if they collected one bag of weeds, they got 100 yen. And in junior high and high school, they work by the hour, and they work really hard. And it also means I don't have to drive them to a part-time job. So it's a win-win. I think one thing I've been lucky, or perhaps a little not careful, is I've always given them a lot of freedom, basically because I was busy. So they had to keep themselves occupied. In the top left, they're standing in an agricultural drain making mud pies, and they were setting up a mud pie shop and selling them to people who walked past. No money changed hands. In the middle, on rice harvest day, they made themselves a teepee. In the very middle, yeah, Amy just used to like to sit places and sing to herself. So that works. At the top was probably one of the more dangerous ones. They wanted to build a house, so we gave them an electric drill and a hammer. and they went and collected apple branches and decided to build a house. It never got much bigger than that, so that was a pity. In the bottom left, we grow rice. We start the rice in like a collective, and everyone is really child friendly. As you can see, that's not my husband. That's just another one of the workers, and all the kids jumped in this cart, and someone was pushing them around. So we've been really lucky that all the places we've worked with and the people we've worked with are very family friendly. And in the bottom, in the middle, one of the games they played was they used to stick rice straw in each other's bike helmets, which is just, again, if your mom doesn't provide toys, I guess you find your own. And then climbing the rice, we told them that the rope was really strong, that they were worried that rice would fall down. And they said, how strong? And I said, you could probably sit on it. And so they tried it. So yeah, they had a lot of freedom when we were working outside. So, and then just to make it not seem like they have very poor, sad childhoods while we work, in the middle, you can see that was actually an exceptional year, but we get a lot of snow. But after probably when we pull the last of the carrots at the end of November, there's no farm work done. The only thing I have to do is shovel snow until March. I even think about doing anything, even putting down leaves and straw. I just don't do anything. So that means, as you can see in the top left, I close the shop and we go to Australia. And I'm from an island in Australia, so it's very different from Nagano. It's a very exciting. In the middle, Meg goes to when they were in elementary school, they actually went to school in Australia, so they got to do that, play at the beach, and then Australia is a very outdoor lifestyle, and it's a very leisure-based lifestyle. I mean, I don't live there. I only go there at Christmas. So I'm sure Australians who've lived there in the last 20 years might have a different opinion. But like sitting on the deck, long lunches, long breakfasts, barbecues, there's daylight savings time. So it's not even dark till 9 p.m. And in the bottom left, my kids have been traveling on planes like at least once a year since they were really little. And they love planes, they love airports. And we're all on holiday. Like I literally can't work when I'm over there. So that means that, yeah, we all relax and they get my attention. And then we come back and we're ready for some distance. The other thing about Nagano is we have our spring vacation starts before other places in Japan. So since they were, I guess, grade 3, they used to get travel books from the library. And I would say in March, they could plan a 3-day vacation anywhere in Japan. And they planned where we'd go, how we'd get there. We looked up Airbnbs together. They would have a daily schedule where we wanted to go, what train we needed to catch, how much. And they would spend like 2 weeks planning a trip. And then we would do the trip together. And so this one, we went to Asakusa. We've also been to Tottori. We've been to Osaka. And so that's their trip. Like going to Australia is my plan. And the rest of the year, we don't really go anywhere. But yeah, so once a year, they planned their trip. And I had to go along and I wasn't allowed to complain. In the top left, we also just we live so far from anywhere fun that going to Mr. Donut is like an outing. Or during the holidays, they'd take their homework to McDonald's and they'd do their homework. So we try to have little bits of fun. On the bottom left, they just decided they wanted to do their homework on the deck. So I think how do I balance family fun and what I want to do? I've been really lucky. They're very happy with very small outings. I think that's everything I have so far.
That was great, Heather. Thank you so much. So many photos to tell the stories. It looks like your family's really has the whole package as far as getting the outdoors, getting the traveling, getting the international, getting the insects, the dirt, and everything else. Sounds like a really great childhood.
I hope they believe that. And sorry I spoke fast, but Chuck gave me a time limit.
Well, it was perfect. It was perfect. Thank you very much. And I believe Chie has also prepared something for us. So I'm going to turn the floor over to her.
Hi. My name is Chie Hama. I live in with my husband and my daughter. She is 4 years old. We live in Keihoku. Can you hear me? Keihoku is located in the north part of Kyoto. It takes about 1.5 hours from Kyoto Station by car. So this photo top one is my field. We moved to Keihoku for 6 years ago. And soon I started farming programs, trainings at a local farm for 1 year. No, 2 years. Then I've started my farm since 2017. Then I grow mainly baby leaves, the bottom one, and sweet peppers and taro potatoes, and so on. And I don't have any other job, just farming. And why farming is at the university I major in German, and researched, studied about Japanese international development aid, and I'm interested and I joined in exchange student. I studied in Cologne University for 1 year. And before I've finished these programs, I visited a German organization in Germany. It's helped organization for children from Afghanistan, Angola, Tajikistan, and so on, and which helps children to medical care. Children get injured because of landmine or conflict and so on. They bring children to Germany and to give them medical care. And after they get well, they go bring back children to their country. And this organization did do it for them freely. Then when I was visited there, I was so impressed, and I wanted to learn how they managed and the system a bit, because they organized run it for by charity, no, by donation. So after I graduated from the university, I've started to internship there for 1 year. There I've met so many children from Afghanistan. Mainly they know one leg or one arms and big burn in the face. I can't forget the first day. I tried to the baby's pampers change, but I didn't know how. But 1 month later, I get used to it, and I play with them, give food, something like that. Then I realized how important the healthy soil and food. And after I finished this internship, I thought I decided to become a farmer, because many children from countryside. So the countryside problems is everywhere. So with agriculture, maybe I can solve these problems, issues. So I decided to be a farm. So my parents is a teacher, so I've never had experience, but I thought there is something good to do the farming. And studied weekend farm in Keihoku for 3 years. Okay, next slide, please. And questions? Yes, I work full time. And favorite crops, baby leaf. it's now pictures of 1, 2, 3. I really love when I oh, 待ってるか? Can you hear me? I really love before one slide. Yes, thank you. I really love growing baby leaves, and I love when I was mixing it. Picture number 4, I mix like this. And most difficult crop is also baby leaves. Next slide, please. Now I had super attack of daikon saruhamushi. I see it since I can't harvest like a mizuna baby leaf because of I had a super attack of by daikon saruha. So number 3 is hakusai. This is my first time to plant hakusai, but it looks like this now. So I give up to plant like this brassica. But I plant beads instead of brassica. So to reduce these problems, I try to make it burning it and clear mouth during summer and not grow brassica. And yes, I tilling. Oh, no, number 5, please. Next, please. Yes, tilling with tractor or tiller. Composting, I use composted bark and green manure. It photos the left and right one. And it's like a group of rice. I don't know how to say in English. It's ineka. And this is my new challenge. And fertilizer, I use oil cakes, guano, and so on. And watering, yes, I watering for baby leaves and sweet peppers. And weeding. So usually I worked alone, but my parents helped me to do weedings. And selling, I sell my vegetable to 3 to 4 restaurants, greengrocer, and wholesales. Yes. Next, please.
I think that's all, Chie.
Okay. I forget maybe write something. Yeah.
Okay.
That's all. Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Maybe I forget the last questions.
No, she has one more slide about her daily routine.
Okay, let me see if I can find it. Sorry, we had some trouble.
Wait, but I can say, so my parents helped me a lot. And morning schedule and getting off daycare, I start harvest 5 to 6 o'clock. Then I make up my daughter up and came back to and bring her to daycare at 9 o'clock. Then come back to my field and again to harvest. And dinner, I start to cook around 6 and we start to eat 6:45. So now I get to use cook. I can make it ready so fast. And the holiday and family holidays, as on Sunday, I set it off. But actually, I wake up so early morning and then check greenhouse and watering. So no holidays for me. But for winter we go to ski. So my husband is an artist. He product furniture and with wood painting class, so he can settle on his holidays. So when daycare is off, like national holiday Sunday, so my parents look after my daughter, so they help me a lot. And now I'm studying medical care cooking, and I had the basic online lessons last August with Zoom. And in 10 years, I want to tell my customers, especially for mother, I want to tell them how to cook and good combination with other food, vegetable, and so on. Yeah, and I really enjoyed farming now. Yeah, that's it.
That's great, Chie. Thank you so much. I'm sorry with the slide troubles. Again, I'm not very good with PowerPoint. I'm on a Mac with Keynote, so there was some slide loss. I apologize
Okay,
for that.
that's okay. No
But
problem.
I think we could all understand that the main takeaway from that for me was you don't have any day off. And what did you say? You get up around 5 to start work?
5 to 6, and then I take care of my child.
Now,
Make
do you
food.
ever take,
Oh.
your child's name is Nagi, right?
Nagi, yes.
Nagi-chan. Do you ever take Nagi-chan to the farm?
When it's typhoon and the daycare off.
Oh, so you take your child to the farm on the most dangerous time there is when there's a typhoon in the air.
No, in front
That's
of
a great
in front
idea.
of my house.
No, I understand. I mean, you're in a greenhouse, right? It's so safe in a plastic house during the typhoon. Well, I know that, I don't know about Heather, but I know that typhoons are a real big deal for us here, and I'm sure they are for her too. But in Kutsuki, the valley is so narrow that it's either, oh, it's okay, or it's really, really bad, depending on which way the wind is blowing. And then I started in Keihoku this spring, and I found out, oh, you guys get typhoons too, and there's a lot of damage as well. But Keihoku is a much more farming community, and actually I am using a half greenhouse that the roof was ripped off by a typhoon a couple of years ago, so I know it happens. But it's a real thing. Do you ever, Chie, I'm curious because Heather and I are both Westerners, so we probably get a little bit different questions from a little bit different people. But do people ever ask you, what do you do when it rains? Do you farm? Do you ever get that question?
Maybe,
Chie?
yes.
Of course you do. I know you do. But do you ever get that question from your friends like, oh, what do you do on a rainy day? You don't farm, do you?
So I protect once my greenhouse also broken because of so strong kaze, wind, and I repaired myself.
Wow.
So actually nothing to do, just looking. Oh my God! So that's it. For winter,
well, I mean, the typhoon is one thing. That's dangerous. But just when it's raining, you know, people always ask me, what do you do when it's raining? Or if a volunteer comes like, oh, it's raining, we're not going to work today, right? And I look at them like, are you crazy? You know, you think farmers don't work when it rains? How we wouldn't, you know, like there's so many days that it rains, we wouldn't get a lot done. So of course we're working in the rain. But a typhoon is a different story, to be sure.
No.
Okay, very good. Okay. Now, Chie, I'm curious, how many different crops do you grow? How many different vegetables? Now, baby leaf is one. So.
Garlic, onion, taro potatoes, aubergine, no, eggplant.
Togarashi.
togarashi. Ah, yes, togarashi,
Mhm.
sweet peppers.
Mhm. Okay. So you don't have a lot of different crops. You grow kind of a few crops.
Yes. So before I also grow potatoes and mame, beans, but I want to focus on more like a baby leaves and like sweet peppers.
Mhm.
So I make it so 少なく.
Mhm. Mhm. I mean, I think that Heather and I heard from Heather's introduction earlier that actually, I don't think she said it, but she said it in one of our messages before this started that she started growing vegetables because she wanted an alternative for her family. Heather, is that true?
Yeah, I actually I grew up like literally you can hear the beach from my house. So I grew up in very, very sandy soil in Australia, which gets very, very little rain. And my mum was always trying to grow vegetables for us. But the amount of effort she had to put in to get a supplement to our diet, um, I was never interested in farming. I'm like, who would do that? And then when I moved to Japan, and we bought this house, and the woman next door who was farming every day was literally bent double and 92 years old. And I kept telling my husband each night, I'm like, you wouldn't believe, like, she was out there again today. And you know, and she spoke very heavy dialect, and she considered my Japanese unintelligible, so we didn't have a lot of deep conversations. But I found out that she didn't water. And I was like, because I was like, hey, I can carry watering cans for you. You know, just let me know and I'll bring water. Because she used to hang out with my toddler, and the toddler would babble and she would dialect. And they just, you know, it was this like fabulous relationship. And she said, no, no water. And I'm like, no, that doesn't make sense. Like, no, what is it? And then she said, well, because she plants before rain and then she doesn't need to water. And so I was like, I dug up part of my backyard and I'm like, I'm going to grow stuff. And then the more I spoke to people around me, and they're like, well, first you have to use the N741 chemical fertilizer, and then you're going to need to spray. Okay, you need to spray everything, and then you're going to need to spray again, and then, oh, you better put some more of these pellets down. I'm like, okay, well, what are the pellets? And like, it's good stuff. I'm like, okay, yeah, but I want more information. So I actually I mean, nothing against conventional farming, but for me, for what I wanted to do, I didn't want to trust JA just because they said it was okay. So I was like, well, I want to see if I can do it with nothing, like no inputs, just do it. And yeah, I created lace like Chie. I created so much lace. And
Oh, you mean the insects eating the inside of your
oh,
leaves and it looks like
beautiful,
lace?
beautiful.
Yeah.
And moles
That's
and
like
voles.
Chie's picture with the spider Hamushi, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
with the
Hakusai, yeah,
Hakusai,
yeah.
right?
So my entire garden looked like Chie's Hakusai. So, and then I was working on building your soil, and then I built my soil too much to the moles and voles and nonezumi, field mice, and I would go, oh, what's wrong with my beet? It suddenly got floppy, and I'd pull it up, and it would be nothing. Like they just eaten it from underneath. So I'm really stubborn, and it became this challenge. Like I want to provide all the vegetables for my family. I don't want to go to the supermarket. I don't want to buy that stuff. I want to provide everything. And yeah, that was about 12 or 13 years ago. And yeah, we now, I mean, but my kids don't eat mini tomatoes in their bento in December. So we have this conversation. Like I'm like, we have tomato sauce and at different times in their lives, they're like, Mom, Yumi-chan had tomatoes in today's bento. I'm like, wow, like,
Yeah, Heather, it's so true. There's so much reason and purpose and love that we, and I'm sure Chie as well, go into educating our children and providing them with the opportunity not only to eat the delicious food but to learn to eat seasonally. But it's
yeah,
also a bit of a curse for the child who goes and sees, oh my God, look what they're
but
eating. Oh.
but when they go to, we have a lot of community events because this is an old style neighborhood with lots. And at December, they have events with like the odoburu plate. And my kids go straight for like the tomatoes. And they're like, Mom, it doesn't taste like a tomato. I'm like, You think? So by like upper elementary, they would also be like, I'm glad my birthday's in September because we get sweet potato. And they have a really good idea of the seasons. But it also means like we went to Saitama to visit a friend, and Amy went running around their house, around the entire perimeter of their house. And I'm like, that's a bit weird, and she's like, Mom, they don't have any food. Because we have blueberries and tomatoes and cucumbers, and they can just peas and beans, they can just pick some and eat it. So so yeah, I think as they got older, they understood that not everyone lives like this. But yeah, there were times when it was a bit. And also my poor mom, they compare supermarket Australian food in summer when there's no water versus fresh picked from our garden, and they'd be like, Australian Hakusai are really bad. They're like wilty. And I'm like, okay, we literally pick ours 2 minutes before we eat it. Poor granny has gone to the supermarket and bought it. So like, let's not compare.
Yeah, we're spoiling our kids for some things, and I think it's the right way to spoil them, to be honest with you. But
yeah,
I mean, your girls are in their teens. I mean, aren't they much more into like the fast foods or the kind of what their friends like and stuff like that?
I think until they finished junior high, we live like about 7.5 kilometers from the station, and we're all uphill coming home. So they really didn't go out much by themselves. And I also let them cook from when I bought them kids' knives. And so from kinder, they used to stand on a little toilet stool and cook. So, and my rule was like, everyone has to try everything, which means I also had to try their creations, which sometimes I'm like, oh, I haven't really thought about putting shiso in a grilled cheese sandwich before, but wow, let's try. So yeah, but I think they like the creativity. And our kyushoku in Nagano is really good. And so they get their fried food and all of their sauces and all of that during kyushoku, and then at home we eat like polenta, or so they knew that they were eating, like they both love chili beans and things that you don't. So I think they felt quite lucky. Now they go to high school in the city, and from their Insta feed I can tell that they eat I'm like, oh, that looks like McDonald's. So I haven't raised them to be anti junk food, and I really don't believe in saying this is a bad food and a good food, but I do explain our reasons. my big girl just got home.
He was just going to say, hey, that wasn't McDonald's.
But yeah, so I mean,
Heather, it's really interesting because I read what you wrote about you wanted to start growing good food for your family, and
yeah,
I got in a totally different angle. Farming was just an accident for me. It's a long, boring story. I'll spare everybody, but when I started actually producing, that's when it was like, oh, well, I better eat this because I made it, and suddenly I'm eating all these organic vegetables, and so is my family, and it was great. Whereas Chie, it seems like you've kind of gone the more traditional route of growing vegetables sort of appropriately and thinking about, well, what's easy to grow here and what do people eat and what can I sell and things like that. Is that right, Chie? I mean, you trained with Ava and Zen for a while, right?
Sorry, can you, maybe I don't understand the question.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. I'm speaking very fast. Yeah. So when you started thinking about starting your own farm, you had been training with Ava and Zen. Is that right?
No, before I had also local farms. So they also teach me. Then after I started my farm, yes, then I met Eva and Zen Ryu-san.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I guess I don't know much about that origin story. I thought I heard Ava say one time that Chie was our helper or our intern or something, but maybe you just were friends. Yeah, okay. But how did you choose what vegetables you will grow? How do you choose which vegetables you grow?
Because the to grow vegetables and to manage farm, for me, it's both important to sustainable. So I wanted to make money, just like a garden farm I want it to be like a job. So baby leaves I can seed, and then in 2 weeks I can harvest. And it's it's not heavy. And in the future, I want to hire the like handicapped people. I want to work together. Maybe it's good for the vegetables. I was looking for such kind of vegetable before I meet Zenryu-san.
Mhm.
So when I meet green baby leaf, so I thought, that exactly I was looking for. So I want to product main every seasons.
Now, Chie, who do you sell your vegetables to?
Who?
I mean, who are your
So
customers?
I sell restaurant and
Okay.
also like my friend and the wholesales,
hmm hmm
the company.
Well, I'm very interested to be one of your customers because I'm not very good at baby leaf. I'm good at head lettuce and I'm good at some greens, but baby leaf really takes a lot of effort. And I think just for the people who are listening now, I want to say that you might not understand, but when you're growing baby leaf, you're harvesting a plant that's only
Yeah.
10 centimeters tall,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. And that seems easy, right? But the problem is to
Yeah.
take all the weeds out. Because if you don't take the weeds out when you're cutting the baby leaf, you're cutting the weeds. If that goes into the mix, that's a big problem because that could
Yeah.
be a toxic plant or just something that's not very nice. So you really have
Mm.
to do a lot of care with the soil. You can't
Yeah.
use black plastic. You have to weed. And it's a real sort of talent, and it's a real hard to grow baby leaf properly.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I respect what you do. I really do.
So during summer, I put the bed for the bed, the clear mulch, so like
Ah,
heatings for weeding.
I think we call that solarizing. Heather, have you
Yes.
ever heard of that solarizing?
Yep, I've done solarizing before. And yeah, and we also do it where you solarize and then you cut down the middle of the sheet and fold it back, and then that provides your walkways. You get to kill whatever's under your walkways, but doing it right, and that you can do that on a commercial scale, Chia, 10 points. Because if it's not, it sounds easy, but if it's not totally flat, and if you don't get the right amount of moisture to get the seed started first, and then you have to not have any birds peck holes in it, because as soon as there's a hole, you break the seal. And yeah, when I read about it, I'm like, lay plastic down and solarize for 2 weeks. I'm like, bonus. Yeah, no, it's a lot more complicated than it sounds. So yeah, I'm really impressed. I'm
So
still a
Heather,
beginner at solarizing.
Heather, do you cover your? Okay, I'm going to ask a farm question here for everybody listening, because we have two parts on the farm. There's the beds where we grow the vegetables, and then there's the walkways, of course, where we walk. And there's different schools of thought about weed control. Some people don't use any plastic. Some people cover everything in plastic, and some people cover some things and not cover others. Now, when I was starting out, I didn't cover anything, and it was just weed city everywhere. Yeah, I had to learn that. Like I said, when I started farming, it was by accident. I didn't know what I was doing. So I just went ahead and did that. And I had to learn, oh, now I see why people are telling me to cover in plastic. And then I started just covering my beds in plastic, where I was growing stuff, because that didn't crowd out my zucchini or my radishes or something that I wanted to eat. But still, in the walkways, it was like, gosh, this is so hard to manage, until I found what's it called? Landscaper's fabric, which
Mm.
is very heavy duty plastic you can use for several years and cover your walkways. And then suddenly, oh, I don't have to weed anymore. This is great. Until the end of the year, when you're throwing away all your plastic, you're like, oh, this isn't very nice. But so Heather, am I to believe that you cover your walkways and your beds?
In the pumpkin, I grow a lot of pumpkins. Pumpkins is one of my main crops. And in the pumpkins, because it's so hard to weed after they've started
You
vining.
can't weed under
Yeah.
pumpkins. You can't.
So
There's impossible.
I have the plastic, disposable plastic where I plant them, and then I have the reusable, the one with the stripes down it, right? I think we use the same type. It's like a woven plastic. I have that, and I've got written on it how long each length is. When I roll it up, I write on it, and then we roll them out. Everywhere else, I mow. My poor household petrol mower. And you wouldn't believe it, I sometimes have a better lawn between the rows in my vegetable field than I do in my front yard. And it starts every year from zero because my husband runs the tractor over the whole field, and then I set out the rows and we lay it, and then I just wait till it gets like yay big and I run a mower over it, and it's beautiful. Because my big thing was I read too many books. I love reading, I love education. And I read the No-Till the No-Till Garden. I read Martin Fortier. I read Curtis Elliott. And I was like, okay, well, I've got to look after my soil. No plastic, no till. I'm just going to work with nature. I'm going to do something called crimping, which I don't even know what it is, but that's the way to deal with it. And yeah, like one person in a climate with a wet season is not going to have a philosophically sound garden. So I've had to, idealism and reality kind of got closer
and then adapting
closer
to what you've got and what's happening.
Yeah.
Chie,
So
I'm wondering about you. Do you cover your beds, but you don't cover your walkways like Ava and Zen did? Is that right?
Just for a bed.
Just the beds, right?
Bed.
And how do you control the weeds in the walkway?
And so with the weeding haka, so kusakariki.
Yeah, we call that a weed whacker.
Weed whacker, yeah.
Yeah.
Whacker.
Which Japan has the best in the world, as far as I can tell, because they've got the one with the string and the one with the blade.
Ah, yes, I love it.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, when I was just for several years in Kutsuki, I had the one with the blade. But then I moved to Keihoku too, and I realized, when you cut it once every 2 weeks, you can use the string. And that's a lot easier. Okay. Yeah. But if I tried the string on my Kutsuki weeds, it's not a weed whacker. It's more like a weed harasser. It's just like, we're just going to slap you around a little bit, but you're not going to die because the weeds are just too strong. So I had a bit of a learning curve with controlling the weeds in my walkways and the edges of my farm. So I think we all have. But it's interesting to talk to some people with some different ideas. Now, Heather, you said you use actually a lawnmower. That's pretty good. I think that's got to be the ideal. But the trouble with that is you have to have whoever creates your farm to make the beds far enough apart to fit that lawnmower down there just exactly. Is that what you did, Heather?
It's all on me. I'm the one who sets out the beds.
Okay, so you do everything. I see.
Some years I'm so confident. I'm like, don't need to measure. I can eye this. I got this down.
Oh, no, don't do that.
Plastic, for all of that, you're putting up with the evils of plastic for the ease of not weeding. As soon as you slice your plastic with the lawnmower, now you've got weeds and the evils of plastic. So yeah, I no longer go, I got this. But I also, I have a weed whacker as well, because on the slopes of a rice paddy, and you might not know this because you don't grow rice, there are actually rules about who is in charge of each side of a rice paddy.
What? Please tell
Every person is, because if you think about it, often there are rice paddies in rows, right? So who's in charge of, is it like the middle seat on an airplane, like who gets the elbow rest? So of course there's a tradition and everyone's in charge of the one below their field. But the problem is
the person on the bottom has just one, but the person on the top has two, I guess. That's what it is.
But also, like in our case, the person on the upside, which shouldn't be our responsibility, doesn't use that field. So his idea of when it's necessary to mow is, not really on par with mine.
A little different from what you dig. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, there's some seed heads on those. You got to get out there.
And also, depending on how they do it, some people scour the earth, which they think will stop them having to do it again. But we don't, we try to stop runoff because we live on a 10% gradient. So it's very important us to conserve soil. And that's another reason why we don't leave empty fields for as long, as much as possible. We either have a cover crop, a wheat crop, or stuff growing, because you can see masses of erosion where a freshly tilled field meets rainy season rain, and you lose topsoil. And it's just really bad. Like, I don't like the idea of that running into the water and then going who knows where. So yeah, we're very careful about that. So I tend to do all the sides, and it takes me 3 hours to do their side, top, and my side of all 4 sides of a rice paddy. Because our rice paddy edges are about 50 to 60 centimeters high, because we grow during deep water. So most people have like this much to mow, whereas we have this huge embankment. But yeah, it's all, I think a lot of it is about community as well. I mean, I thought farmers were like the last like lone ranger. You go out, you do what you want, when you want, how you want, and this is my field and no one can say anything. Yeah, no.
No, you've got to follow, you've got to, especially as part of a community. Chie, do you think that's true too? You have to kind of follow the community rules about cutting your grass and everything.
Yes.
else?
Yeah. So last 2 months, my neighbors call me. So, Chie, your garden looks like many bushes. Why? What happened? I was, oh, sorry. Then I read it so understand as possible, and also tillers. Yeah, they are watching me. So.
Well, I noticed in Keihoku on some of the rice fields near the road, some people have these special lawn mowers that are cut the side of the rice field on the thing, right? Those look so cool, right?
But okay, have a look at the width of the strip that they can cut.
It's pretty narrow, right?
Yeah, we looked into those, and I realized how many more times I'd have to go around the field. Like, because with a regular lawnmower, with enough arm power, you can actually do a slope. You've just got to really work. Like, I've got very uneven biceps.
Whoa!
Wow!
Because this one's got nothing. This is the downhill side bicep.
Wow! So you cut that with the lawnmower, not the weed whacker.
But to the lawnmower, again, it's about the time of year, how high the grass is, whether it's wet or not. So we make these decisions, again, like I had all these philosophies in there. This is what this tool's for, and that's what this tool's for. But we've come to be like, this is what works for us, and it doesn't annoy our neighbors. So the lawnmower cuts much more, and if you crank it up to like the highest one, it doesn't matter if it's a little uneven, and no one's going to play cricket out there, so you don't have to worry about it being super smooth, and it just saves time. And most of the time, like Chie, I'm not cutting the grass because I think it needs cutting. I'm cutting the grass so my neighbors don't go, don't know what's going on there. Like, so I always very publicly cut the grass. Like at 5 a.m, I do things that I need to do. At 10 a.m, I cut the grass. So everyone's having their tea and their little break and watching me work.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. Now, Heather, I had a question for you. How do you eat rhubarb? You seem to grow a lot of it.
Okay. People who I send rhubarb to, who I sell, send me the most amazing dishes. Pies and tarts and crumbles and jam and some kind of, you mix it with gin? You mix it with something and make some kind of amazing alcohol. When I say to people that what you eat is what I eat, it's true. Every time I harvest to sell, there's always stuff that didn't make the grade or I harvested too much, and then that is what we eat. But all I do is chop it up and put a minimum of water over it and boil it. And then as soon as it boils, I just leave the lid on and turn it off. And we eat it just, I don't put sugar on it. My kids are horrified. My kids add sugar. It's really tart with no sugar, but I like that. And I have it on yogurt, on my cereal, just as is. But yeah, so basically 95% of the time, all I do is stew it. But that's more just because I'm like, I always look at the recipe and I go, oh, wow, that looks amazing. Or someone sends me a photo and says, thank you. I'm like, yeah, I should make that. And then I go, okay, what am I going to do with today's rhubarb? Oh, I'm so tired. I'm just going to stew it. But jam, I made jam. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, jam is what I've heard of in pies, but I've never really eaten it. I've never grown it either, so I just don't know much about it.
It doesn't work well in most of Japan. It really doesn't like humidity, And I think even in Nagano, the places that sell it commercially are even higher elevation than me. So I think, yeah, which is weird because we grow it in Australia. So I really can't get my head around it. The only thing I think is it just doesn't like humidity. Because I mean, they grow it in Yorkshire, is famous in the UK. So yeah, but there's something, I mean, I've sent it to really good farmers who grow a lot of things. I've sent it to people in Kyushu and in different prefectures, and they've all gone, it died, it shriveled.
Well, as you said it during your introduction, rhubarb is incredibly hardy.
Yeah,
so I think
for
it
me.
can adapt to a lot of zones. Right. Now, I do have a question from Robert Yellen in Kyoto. He says, do you know, Heather, do you know Kelton in Matsumoto?
The ice cream Kelton?
He did say it's the ice cream guy. Yeah, you know him.
I do. I have a very, very strange connection to Kelton. So my boss, when Kelton retired from English teaching and became the ice cream Kelton, my boss bought Kelton's English school. So I technically work for Kelton, but one step removed.
Okay. Very good. And Robert says it's his best friend. So he makes ice cream using local ingredients. So maybe you can work with him and make a rhubarb ice cream someday.
I'm going to say anyone who's in Matsumoto, Kelton shop is right on the main drag. I'm not sponsored by Kelton, but he uses like really local ingredients and makes really amazing ice cream. Like not strawberry, chocolate, vanilla. He makes like what do you call it, like local grapes into the ice cream, and like unusual combinations of flavors too, and it's always changing. So yeah, definitely worth a check.
That's amazing. I had another question for you, Heather. You say you grow wheat now.
Yes.
I mean, if you grow rice, there's like loads of people around you, and there's probably a local community place for you to go and clean your rice, to take the momigata off of it, and then take the nuka off it if you don't like emai, and then get it back. How do you process your wheat?
So first of all, the machines you use, we do rice the old-fashioned way, like not by hand, but we hang it to sun dry, and then we use a dakokuki, a thresher, to remove the grain from the straw. Those machines, the binder, the one that cuts it up and ties it up, and the one that threshes it, are dual purpose. So we didn't need to buy any more machinery. So that was step one. It was like, hey, we've already got, and you only use rice machinery once a year. So it's quite an expensive investment. If you think of cost per use, which is how I like to think of most things in life, you're honestly buying a machine that you use for one day per year. So if you grow wheat, now it's 2 days.
Well, that just gets it part of the way, though. I mean, that you can't just take that wheat off the rack and be like, oh boy, let's have a thing of wheat.
So I went to a farm shop where you get to like make your own, like you choose the size of your mota, and you choose the size of your funnel, and you choose whether you want to be able to make miso from boiled beans as well. And so like you choose your options, and then they build you a meal. I guess it's a meal.
I'm already in love with this shop, by the way. Keep going. So
we got that, and then I started getting like 10-kilo orders, and I'm like, 10 kilos, that's like, that's a lot of me I can put in about 600 grams at a time, and that was a lot for me at the start, because before that we were doing it by hand. And then, my poor sore bicep was like, I can't do this. So then there's a soba mill, because Nagano is a really big soba area. And there's a soba mill in the village. And I asked, and they will also do wheat. Now, of course, there's an allergy issue. I can definitely not sell to people who have soba allergies. But yeah, so I take it down. They take minimums of 30 kilos, and they will mill it for me. So yeah,
I would think there would be more of a crossover the other way. People with the wheat allergies can't eat their soba.
I've never asked them if that's a problem. Now you make me.
Well, don't. Not on my part. Just I was surprised to hear that when you said allergies.
It's a really small.
It's a very small disease and everything else must be an issue, but. Okay.
It's a ma and pa. It's a ma and pa organization, and the mill is like everything in their entire shop is covered in dust, flour dust, like dust, because and as you're talking, there's a big machine right next to you going brrr.
Hey, that's awesome. We love that. That's real life. This is very visceral experience. And last question, just for you, Heather. What do you do with the rice straw and the wheat straw once the the edible parts are removed? What do you do with that?
We are never have leftover. We use it for everything. So it's in the winter I
Like
do
stocking stuffers and I don't
no,
know.
we do deep straw bedding for the chooks in the winter. So during the winter, we don't clean out the chook cage. We just keep giving them new straw and new straw. And they've got a really big run, but during the winter, they don't tend to come outside. They're like, yes, no, yeah, no, thanks. So they tend to spend more time inside. And we don't want like for disease and cleanliness. And so we just put more and more. And then in spring, we bring all of that out. And that goes in the veggie garden. We also use straw as deep mulch under the apple trees, around the rhubarb, over the rhubarb, because you want to protect the crowns, raspberries, blueberries, like, yeah, basically everywhere. And
so
then
when you say you bring it out into the vegetable garden, I mean, you have to compost it first, or you just use it as a mulch? What do you do with that?
But no, because we're not no-till, because we till, and because the problem with using the straw is there's no nitrogen left, right? It's all brown. But once it's mixed,
well, I mean, with the chicken poop in there, though, it's got a lot of nitrogen in there.
But then, of course, it's hot, right? You can't use it straight away because it's what they call hot.
Exactly.
So it's like,
do you compost it first, or
no? It goes straight in the garden, and we run the tractor over as soon as it's not frozen. So like end of March. But we don't plant anything in the field until first week of May. So that's given it like a full month.
Enough. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys are harvesting before I'm planting. Hello from Nagano.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Chie, I had a few questions for you about what you talked about. You said, first of all, Chie, how many crops are you growing? You said baby leaf and a few others, right? Maybe about 10 different vegetables you're growing? 8 or 10? Okay. And when you were in Germany, so I'm going to go back to that time. That was very interesting what you were talking about. I had I'm looking forward to talking to you more in person about your experiences in Germany. It sounds incredible. But did you say that there were farms involved to feed the refugees or something?
No, just take just look after
how that
children.
inspired you to be a farmer. That's what I was curious about.
So how? You mean why?
Or why? Yeah, why?
Because so before the children had injuries, but these days they are hibaku. I don't know how to say.
Somebody else can translate that.
Just they're survivors, like the hibaku from the Hiroshima bomb, like they're victims but survivors.
Because Leka Uran, the children from Afghanistan, because of uranium.
Radiation.
Yes. Uranium. Yeah.
Yeah.
Depleted uranium, right? Depleted.
Depleted. Yeah.
Yeah. So the pregnant, the mother is pregnant, and the babies with like a sickness because of these weapons. So I thought the field is really important as a protect environment like this.
Yeah.
And so because of I met children, that's why I motivated to do farm.
I see. Okay. Thank you. I wasn't sure if you were learning about farming in Germany or just something else.
So through the experience.
Well, you learn the importance of having the natural areas, and also, of course, a good supply of healthy food that is right there. You don't have to worry if there's some problem. You can just go out and get it. So I think that's something all of us farmers take advantage of, is we have access to food whenever we want it, pretty much. Except for Heather, who can't grow most of the year because she's in Nagano. Sorry, I have lots of questions about the daikon saruhamushi. that I'll ask you another time. But did you say that basically they attack all the brassicas?
So yes, so the I seed the August, July. Since July, I couldn't harvest. So like mizuna of baby leaf.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because of them, I see.
Yes,
So
yes.
I'm in real trouble because I have like 300 brassica transplants just waiting to go in Keihoku. And today I went to my Kutsuki farm and I'm like, I've got to put all these things in here. How am I going to fit this in? Because the whole reason I want to grow my brassicas in Keihoku is because there's too many monkeys in Kutsuki, and monkeys love the brassicas. Cabbages, broccolis, cauliflowers, Brussels sprouts, hakusai. They eat all the plant all the way to the ground every time. So I felt like, yay, no monkeys. I'm going to get all my cabbages this year. But now I learned, no, I've got to do something else. So that's real bad news for me. Plus, I have a bunch of broccoli and cabbage and Brussels sprouts in the ground in Keihoku right now. So I feel like, oh, okay, this is a learning year for me.
Yeah. Last year it's not like this. It's a better.
Okay.
It's not so many bugs like this year.
Well, I find that Keihoku is much more of an agricultural community for a long time than Kutsuki. Kutsuki is very small, narrow village valley, you know, so there's farms and gardens, but not so many, not so close. So the insect population cannot grow so fast. But Keihoku, it's like everywhere is a farm. So I feel like, oh, it's a real challenge for farmers there to try to fight against all these problems. Because if you're organic, you're the only food in town because this guy uses chemicals, that person uses chemicals.
Yes.
So it's like everybody comes to your farm to eat.
Yeah.
So that's the big problem with being organic in such a community, I think. So I think that's why everybody like Ava and Zen and you like greenhouses, because you're a little bit more controlled.
Yes. So in greenhouse, so no attack.
Okay.
I don't have any troubles with bugs.
That's good. You got to. The thing about a greenhouse, so you have to make sure your nae, your baby plant, is clean before you bring it into the greenhouse, right? Because if you bring it in some insects into the greenhouse, maybe that's a real big problem to get rid of.
Yeah.
Because that's like the perfect environment for them. They no enemies for them.
No.
So that's one of the things I learned a long time ago about organic farming is if you don't spray for bugs, okay, the bugs are going to come. But soon the bugs that eat those bugs, or the frogs or the birds, are going to come and eat those things. So the natural cycle goes. But then you get like the top predator, like monkeys, or even karasu, crows.
Yeah.
They'll come in and they'll clean you out. So if you put a net for them, suddenly the owl and the tombi cannot come in to eat the mogura or the nezumi. So once you make a block in the system, the natural cycle stops. So a greenhouse must be very challenging because of that. If you're very clean, then maybe a greenhouse is easy. But if you're a little bit dirty, oh, it must be really tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still learning about that stuff. But I think as farmers, the three of us can agree, even if we farm until we're 85 years old, we're still going to be learning more and more and more every year. And I think that's one of the benefits to farming is it's a lifelong learning voyage for us. So I really, really like that. Well, actually, I have finished all of my questions. So maybe, Heather, you and Chie have questions for each other, or even for me, and even questions from other people who are joining us. I open the floor. Please ask away.
Heather?
Yes.
Once I tried the grow rhubarb.
Yes.
But it doesn't good. It's not good. Is there some hint? So
are you
to grow?
Were you growing from stalks or from seed?
from seedlings like a pot.
Oh, was it? Oh,
I
so,
bought.
and you planted it in spring?
I put it. Yes, spring. No, it's May, March,
Oh, yeah,
May
yeah.
or May.
So what I do is I put rice straw all around it so that the soil around it is the temperature is fixed. Like if there's straw in the summer, the soil is cooler, and straw in the winter, it means the soil is warmer, and it also keeps moisture. So I think that's when it's really small, like variations in temperature and wet, dry, wet, dry. I think that's probably one problem. But like I said, I feel like every time I send Nagano rhubarb south, people are like, it didn't grow. So, and one woman, like the third time I sent it to her, she's a great farmer, and she's a professional farmer, but she lives in Oita. And I said, okay, because I grow from seed. I said, I'm gonna plant seed, and I'm going to send you seedlings, and we're going to plant them in the garden on the same day. And I showed her the straw, and we did everything exactly the same. Hers died and mine didn't. So move to Nagano. But yeah, no, I think fluctuations in temperature and getting like dry and wet and dry and wet. So I really think maybe one secret is a lot of autumn leaves and then straw around it to really keep it. But even I don't get like I grow from like when I break it and it has a bit of the root attached, I stick it in the ground, and I probably get 50% that will grow. So even I don't get it all. But yeah, once it goes well, some of mine are like over a meter round and like
so big.
Yeah, just heaps of stalks. But yeah, it's, I don't know, everyone, I'm like, oh, it's really easy, you should grow rhubarb. And people are like, no, it's not. It's not a sales tactic. I don't tell everyone it's easy to grow because I'm like, ha ha ha, they'll be back.
Okay.
So I want to know, where do you get the vegetables for your family that you don't grow? Like, I mean, you care about the land, you care about good, healthy vegetables. Do you have a relationship with another farmer? Like,
yeah, sometimes I bought my farmer's friends. There is a market, like a local market. I buy it.
That's great that you have that relationship, because I don't trust anyone else. Except for you and Chuck. But you and Chuck are good.
Are you talking about Woody?
Yes, Woody.
Yeah, Woody, for those who don't know, is, what is it, like a sato no eki? Is that what you would call it?
Michi no eki?
Michi no eki. I always confuse those. Basically, it's a visitor center with a lot of farm fresh vegetables. And I guess it's been closed for, 2 months now because of the state of emergency? And so I think a lot of farmers are struggling to sell their vegetables. But it's wonderful vegetables at incredibly low prices and really good selections and things like that. So that's a nice place. Heather, do you have something like that in your village, in your area?
I don't really want to badmouth. We have
It's okay.
Michinoeki. When I first moved to this village 17 years ago, Michinoeki were literally co-ops. You had to volunteer so many hours a month to be able to put your vegetables there. And every morning you brought your vegetables. Everyone's vegetables had a sticker with their name on it, and you were paid for what you sold, which was bizarre because I would pick up what looked good and someone would smack my hand and go, this zucchini is grown by your daughter's classmate's grandmother. You must buy this zucchini. And I'd be like, I liked the yellow one. So that's when I came. But it was also, they all sold for what they called tanedai, which is like just recoup my seed money. So the prices were rock bottom. Then I don't know, but it was on like a TV show or it was in a magazine, but people began like, on your drive through Nagano, stop at Michinoeki and grab fresh vegetables. And now we have what I call like fake Michinoeki, because they're tourist traps. They sell for above the price of the supermarket. The quality is not the Zoto like fancy quality, but they're selling for those prices, and they sell stuff not just from our area. So like my mother-in-law in Fukushima really loves this stuff called, is it Yamakikurage? It's some kind of wood fungus, and she heard it was a Nagano product. And I went to there and I said, yeah, we've got it. And I picked it up and I turned it over and it's made in China. And I'm like, like, and I was like, oh, how, like, why do you sell that here? I was like, I wasn't being like, I was honestly like, wow, I thought the Michinoeki was just for local products. And she's like, oh, no, the tourists want to buy it and we don't always have it. I was like, oh. So I still know a couple of the really little co-op ones, which I love to go to. And I can buy the kakoyo, which is my favorite word for food. It means eat now. No, it doesn't. It means for processing. But for me, it's like, like kakoyo, I don't like crunchy peaches. And people around me, I don't know about the rest of Japan, but they eat their fruit when it's still hard. And I like my fruit ripe. So if I see kakoyo plums or kakoyo peaches, I'm like, those are mine. So there are still a few of those, but a lot of them are big and fancy, and they've got a sunflower field or a cosmos field with like the photo spot next door. And I mean, it's a great, the farmers are making bank, which they never did before. But I don't sell any of my stuff there, and I don't really want to be.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm a snob. I'm a Michinoeki snob.
I think that's happened to a lot of the areas. I go through a town called Ohara from my place in Kyoto to my farm in Kutsuki, and it's a wonderfully old traditional farming community for millennium. And they have a new Michinoeki, but they used to have one just on Sunday, and that was like the real authentic one.
Yeah.
And I think there was a little bit of ruffled feathers when they opened the new one, but now it's kind of the accepted thing, and it's brought in a lot more tourists, which I think was the whole goal to it. So I think there's a lot of money and profit behind a lot of these things that used to be just to support the people in the community are now to bring in money for the few people who are running those industries, which is kind of a shame. But it's also allowing some of my friends, well, let me finish. It's also allowing some of my friends who are farmers to upscale and just grow more of the same vegetable and then make a living doing it. Like this guy specializes in carrots and beets and rugula, and that's it. And he's able to make a decent wage because he knows he can sell it all. So there's always an up and a down, I guess. Go ahead, Heather.
I was going to say, apples that you sell to JA have to be the right color, the right shape. They have to have the brown stalk on top. Any apple without the brown stalk, which I'm pretty sure no one eats, is not sellable to JA. So one crate of apples to go that are not quality is 500 yen for the farmer. So if they can sell 6 for what I consider highway robbery, like 400 yen to tourists, I cannot blame them. And in fact, I think it's a great, for our community, it's great. But for people, like I used to be in Chie's situation, I didn't grow all the vegetables that we needed. And I like the idea of buying local vegetables from people I know. And for me, the Michinoeki no longer serves that purpose. But then, that's pretty selfish to be like, we should be locals for locals and locals only, because most agricultural villages can't survive locals for locals for locals only. And if you can get tourists to take it home to the city, it's great for Nagano. Everyone's like, wow, these fresh vegetables from Nagano. And it's great for the farmers who can sell it. And usually people go and buy a drink or they, like it. So yeah, I understand why it's moving that way, but I'm a little bit Showa. I'm a little bit nostalgic for the olden days.
Sure, of course. Now, I mean, that brings up a lot of questions for me, because how we sell our vegetables is kind of how you define yourself as a farmer in a lot of ways. People say, what kind of farmer are you? And it's not, oh, I'm a carrot farmer. No. It's how do you sell your vegetables? Are you a market farmer? Are you a CSA farmer? Are you a restaurant farmer? I mean, are you a single crop farmer? Are you working for the government organizations like JA? And I am a CSA farmer, which a lot of people aren't maybe familiar with, but it means I sell my vegetables directly to customers. I often deliver it to their house, just a mixed basket of whatever I have available that day. And to me, it's a system that grew out of, well, I heard about it on a podcast. And again, I'm not a trained farmer. I didn't go to school. I didn't have any experience. So I learned about farming just kind of by farming and then listening to lots of podcasts. And one of them talked about the CSA, which is Community Supported Agriculture, or Teikei in Japanese, where people subscribe to you. They give you a couple $100 and you give them baskets for a couple of months, and then they renew and da 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 da. And it's a really great system for them because they get fresh vegetables delivered to their door, and there's no plastic packaging at all because they were just harvested, washed in the river, and brought fresh to your door. Absolutely no plastic necessary. And it's great for the farmer because we get the highest price point for those vegetables. There's no middleman. And of course, a lot of industry these days is built on, well, how many people are between the producer and the consumer? And that's a good business model for the country and for the economy because many people are getting paid along the way. But it's not a good system for somebody who's producing something that doesn't have such a high sales value. And an organic carrot, while it's a fantastic product, just doesn't have a great sales price. So you have to produce a real whole bunch of them and follow a system that says, okay, this one's a little too long, or this one's got a little bit of a wiggle to it, or you cut that one a little too close. Sorry. That's garbage. That's absolutely useless. And these good ones, we're going to give you 10 yen a piece, and that's what you're stuck with, versus selling them direct to customers with the leaves on them that they love to see, a little twisties, and oh, this one's got 2 legs to it, and they taste so much better. They're so much more beautiful because they're natural, and the people can taste that. That's what my customers get, is those ugly, twisty carrots and those weird potatoes and the tomatoes that have a spot in them, and of course all of my greens have little holes in them where the bugs have been eating it, but they taste much better. They're better for the environment. And as organic farmers, I'm sure Chie and Heather can attest, we know what is good. We know, we are the specialists. We may not be having letters after our name like PhD or anything, but we know how that was raised in the correct environment, harvested at the correct time. Yeah, it's got some flaws, but you eat that and you're going to get the maximum nutritional value out of it, and it's going to have the lowest environmental impact. So who are you going to trust? The supermarket making money, 7 or 8 rows down, or the farmer who's actually the one in the field who knows about this stuff, who planted the seed for that thing and started it growing to begin with. So I hope that there's a lot more opportunity for us farmers to let people know these kinds of things. And that's one of the reasons I do these little discussions is when you hear farmers talk, we talk about different things. Like, my friends and my wife, they'll just walk out of the room. Oh, Chuck's talking to a farmer. We're not part of this conversation. We're so otaku. We are so otaku talking about soil and weather and seeds and fertilizer, greenhouses, machinery, tools. Good night, buddy. And, so what? That's my life. Yes, I am a nerd. I'm a geek, guilty as charged, and I hope to be one for the rest of my life. But I just ate my soup with all my ugly vegetables, and I got to say, it tastes way better and is much better for me and the environment than anything I can purchase. So that's enough to be said about that. But yeah, I believe that, Heather, you might have had questions about my CSA or something?
Marion has a question.
Oh, okay, Marion. Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry, Marion,
you're muted.
I wanted to join earlier, but we've just been driving back from Chiba, where I have just decided to buy a vessel, and it has a field attached. I mean, it's definitely a direction I want to explore, but I wanted to ask Chuck, when you sell your stuff like that, is it like you buy what we give you, and it's a sort of, or do your customers choose?
That's a very good
You
question.
give them yeah, because I used to buy stuff like that, and sometimes you would get a heck of a lot of satoimo and not much else. And some of that was to support the farmers, and sometimes you'd get lots and lots of one thing, but people sort of accepted it. But then they got turned into some kind of co-op, and now it's really different, and there's too much plastic wrapping and all that kind of thing. But this idea that you buy what the farmer has because that's what's available, is that what you do? You do.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
that's a great issue you've brought up, Marion, and
Mm.
I feel for both sides because, of course, I am a farmer and I'm also a purchaser of vegetables at sometimes, and I
Yeah.
wouldn't like it if I was paying 2,000 yen for a box of zucchini, basically, because that's all the farmers got right now, or like you said, sweet potatoes or some runty stuff that doesn't look very good.
Mm.
So my system has evolved over the
Mhm.
years. I started it about 3 years ago. You see, I went through just basically eating everything I grow to giving it away, like Heather said she did, to selling to a few restaurants, to farmers markets, to farm stands, and now to my CSA, which is my favorite. And then the CSA had to kind of grow up as well. Now, I started my CSA while I was still working a lot of teaching jobs,
Sorry,
so I
what's a
had an income.
CSA? What does it stand for?
Oh, CSA is Community Supported Agriculture,
Oh, great. Okay, thanks.
and it's called Teikei in Japanese. So I think any community would have had this. I mean, if you went back 150 years, I'd say most people knew their farmer, or if they didn't grow everything themselves, bought directly from the farmer or from the whoever the farmer hires to push the cart through town saying, come out and get your vegetables kind of cart thing. So it's kind of an investment in the farmer saying, here's this money up front. So you have a guaranteed sale and I get
Mm.
first go at it, so I know I'm
Mhm.
guaranteed this food. And so I went through those years where it was like, I mean, everybody loves the first summer basket because it's like, it's got the spring and the summer vegetables in there. So it's like, they just try to order those. And I'm like, well, I still need money in the early spring. And so what I've tried to do, Marion, is I guarantee at least 7 or 8 different varieties of vegetable in each basket. And
Mhm.
if you really don't like something, you can say, I don't want that. I may be able to change it, but I may not be able to change it. But I always try
Mhm.
to compensate. It's like, well, you don't like, for example, Goya. Goya is a kind of a,
Yeah.
I love it or I hate it kind of vegetable, right? And so, some people are like, I still have 3 that are in the refrigerator because nobody will eat them. So I'm like, okay, well, I had a few runty beets that I pulled, or here are some okra that just happen to be along, or here's some extra herbs, or I know you like tomatoes, here's an extra handful of those. So I try to work with my customers, and I don't like to call them customers, but members of my program,
Mm.
because for me, it's about we're sharing this whole thing, and you're
Yeah.
supporting me, so I'm trying to support you.
So
So
you
I
get that
really like that.
individual feedback. You've got a basic set, but then you can kind of tweak it a little bit to make people happy.
But I don't advertise the tweaking because then everybody wants
Very
tweaking.
well.
It's like,
Very
I
nice.
like the yellow tomatoes more than the red ones. Can I have a few more of those? And suddenly it's all a personal order. And I think
Yeah.
people don't realize, because I drive up to their house. Hi, I'm here with your vegetables. Yes, this is that, and this is that. Hi, thank you. Okay, goodbye. That's my only job. They don't realize that I drive an hour and 10 minutes to the farm. I work all day farming, harvesting, weeding, whatever I'm doing, put everything in baskets, drive an hour and 10 minutes back to the city, spend an hour and a half driving around the city, delivering these vegetables, trying to make it home for family dinner. So, and then they're like, oh, what about this and what about that? I'm just like, I'm tired. I want to go home too. So I try to streamline it, and it's about doing as much as I can, but also setting the limits for myself. And I'm
Mhm.
sure Chie and Heather can attest. There's when you're growing organically, there's the business model is what's your profit, right? But organic farming is what's your profit, what are you doing for the community, and what are you doing for the environment? But one of my favorite podcasters, Chris Blanchard, and he's passed away now. He's a wonderful source of information. I highly recommend it to anybody interested. he said there's that number 4, and that's the quality of life for the farmer. And I've gotten that over the past few years because we can work ourselves to death. Heather says she could spend all day on the farm, and Chie said she can't work when her daughter's there. We suffer for our work, just like anybody. So if we don't have that quality of life, like Chie said, she doesn't have a day off. You know, imagine that you don't have a day off. So I understand that, but it's hard for other people to really grasp that farmers work really, really hard. And without that quality of life, we're going to burn out and we're going to give it up. So we have to have that balance. And I think it's okay for me to be like, you know, I can go this far, but I can't go this far. I'm sorry. And I've had to tell people that. Go ahead.
I'm going to say, I think a really important part of it, which has always been like, I looked into organic certification in Japan, and I was disappointed how many additives and pesticides and herbicides they would use. And so I thought, I'm not going to go through all the paperwork, jump through all the hoops, and keep all the records and do everything on their schedule, only to be lumped in with people who use. So I've always said education is important, and education is my education, how I can look after the soil, how I can grow better, what to do when I find a new bug, but also education of my customers. And again, I don't like the word customers, but yeah, like, and so when people say, oh, you know, why don't you have anything in the shop? I have literally taken a photo of the snow and sent it to people, not in a passive aggressive way, but they're like, we've already got spring greens in our supermarket. Like, I want to buy yours. I'm like, okay, it's not spring in Nagano. I promise you. Like, like, I wish it was spring. Trust me. Yeah. But and again, at every step of the process, and I also try to listen to people. And I think people imagine that I've got a team of 5 and a dedicated washing and packing room, and I don't know, an extra 4 hours in the day that they don't have. And I have to say, look, no, you know, I'm sorry, I don't send out packages on Tuesday. Tuesday doesn't work for me. So if you order on Monday, most days you have next day. I send your order, but if you order on Monday, it goes out on Wednesday. I'm sorry. And I also have a satisfaction guarantee, which goes both ways, which is I guarantee to the best of my ability and my belief that what I sent you was worth the money, a good quality product, and it's literally what my family is also eating. That's my guarantee. If you weren't happy, I apologize. You can have your money back, but please don't order from me again, because this is my best. So if you weren't happy with that order, you won't be. And I said, people have been really, like, I've had a couple of times that something happened. And one time I packed a massive caterpillar and it went to town. And between Nagano and Kyushu, a caterpillar has a lot of munching time. And I apologized profusely. And I said, you know, everything is like checked before, but I said, that one got away from me. Like, that's on me 100%. But if someone says, I didn't feel that the box, like, it was mostly greens, I was wanting tomatoes, and I'm like, look, you know, I'm very sorry, I don't make boxes to order. If you want to know what's probably happening this week, and I'm a people pleaser, so I say you'll get 6, and I usually pack 7 to 8, figuring that if there's one you don't like, you still feel like you got your 6. But again, if I do all of this and I go this far and you're still, I'm not meeting your expectations, then I very happily give out the name of other farms, not to pass on bad customers, but just because I didn't suit your name. I don't believe that's a bad customer. I believe that's a bad match.
You can only go so far.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I just think it's a relationship. Like, there's lots of people in this world who I wouldn't be happily married to, but they're happily married to other people. So they work with some combinations, but they wouldn't. And I've had people who've been super happy and go, thank you. Like that guy you recommended in Chiba, that works for us. And I'm like, you know, I'm really happy for you. And that person will probably recommend my apples or something else to their friend because they had a positive interaction with me. So yeah, I personally get hurt when I get criticism. So I'm like, because I grew that from a seed. And then, you know, I looked after it and then I harvested it and then I packaged it and I do old newspaper and like recycled. So I found a box that was the right size and I took it down to the post office and I raised it. And I went to all this effort and you weren't happy. I'm like, well, now I'm sorry for me. I'm sorry for my vegetable. I'm sorry for you. I'm sorry for. So I think education is so important. And I think
I agree.
In general, the more people who know, not like the, oh, poor farmers, it's hard to be a farmer, but just that these are the seasons, these are the bug pressures, these are the time pressures, this is what Chuck's delivery route is. The more people know about it, the more they can decide whether this is the right place for them, and also just like go when they eat that first cabbage, they're like, wow, like that's a great cabbage, yay, like, and just appreciate their food. So yeah, sorry, that was a long answer, but yeah, I really think education for us and for everyone, and I think Japanese elementary schools do a great job of teaching kids where their food comes from and like appreciating the seasonality in that. So I think that's great, but I think like as people become adults, I think they forget. So yeah, sorry.
No, Chie, I was wondering if you had something to say about that. Like you're selling to, yeah, go ahead.
So as a little bit change subject, but last year I grow the 500 taro potatoes almost.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was a really good harvest. Then I can get money, but I almost burned out because it was too hard for me. But last year I really wanted to make a result, like to make money. So but this year I can't do the same thing. So I put this year for just 200 taro potatoes, but put more grow more sweet peppers. So it's for me it's making a balance. And
Now, Chie, you sell to Sakano Tochu?
Sakano Tochu, yes.
Maybe you
So-
could explain a little bit about Sakano Tochu. What is it?
This is wholesales. It's specialized in organic vegetable box. They sell to the customers. And I sell them my baby leaf salad mix, and I packed with plastic bags. I don't know whether it's the other way to packing the baby leaves.
Well, baby leaf is so fragile. I think that
Yes.
it's got to be really hard to ship it. So I think baby leaf is one of those things. And I was going to talk to you about this personally, but I'll say it right now, is I want to buy your baby leaf. I was serious yesterday when I talked to you about that.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop at the Komeri, the home center, and I'm going to buy some reusable plastic containers. And I'm going to let my customers use those, because what I do with baby leaf is I just kind of wash it and deliver it wet in a big mass, like here you go. And they put it right into their own container and put it in the fridge. But I've spoken with some of my customers, and if it was in a container already, super easy. And that way it kind of keeps fresh too. So maybe we can work something like that. I'm looking forward to trying that out.
Yep.
But with somebody like Sakano Tochu, now with what Marion and Heather and I were talking about was when it's sold directly to a customer. That customer could say, oh, I like this, I don't like that. But selling to a company like Sakano Tochu, I think they're even more strict about the quality and everything else. Is that true?
Sakano Tochu, I don't know, it's good to say, but not so. I also sell JA. So what Heather said, it's really for JA, it's like a size, colors, so strict. But Sakano Tochu not so strict than JA.
Okay.
So like a little bit like this carving sweet peppers, I sell a little bit black, like black thing, I sell.
Okay, well that's good.
So,
I mean,
so
I don't have any experience with them, so I didn't know if they're more strict or less strict. So it seems like they're trying to help the farmers too.
yes, and sometimes I also explain the Sakano Tochu. So because of this kisetsu, it's the vegetable is not good conditions. So not, I mean, a little bit black, but the quality is not problems. So I communicate to explain and yes.
Now, I've been contacted a lot because I have a very special situation. I realize that I don't live at my farm, first of all. So I'm the weird farmer. And I don't go to my farm every day. I'm often a late arrival. So, when you say on the farm at 5 o'clock, I'm like, wow, my vegetables are really jealous of your vegetables because they get the best quality care.
You
I'm
have
like
independent vegetables at Chuck's farm.
I know. Well, my vegetables are going to complain, then I'm going to be arrested for neglect and things like that. So, but so I have a little bit of an easier time managing my time and everything else like that. But I'm used to just dealing directly with customers, so I don't have as many issues with things like that. But I'm learning as I go that you farmers that have to sell to JA and places like Sakanotochu or Michinoeki, there's a lot more to your job. You have a lot more work ahead of you because I just harvest, throw it in the basket and go. I don't even wash my basil. They get it dirty, or the potatoes still have dirt on them, and they're happy with that, because it's fresh from the farm. But you guys have to wash everything, arrange it in a bag, and then put your label on it, and then wait, put it out for delivery, and then it gets picked up, and blah blah blah. So there's just a lot more to it. But I have been contacted by several people saying like, hey, we know your vegetables are 2,000 yen a box, and that's a fair price for good vegetables. But do you have like a B grade box for students and things like that? So I think there's a lot of room for growth there because, like I said, I live in the city. I could bring a lot of farmers B grade vegetables and resell them and really kind of create more opportunities both for people who want the vegetables and people who want to sell the vegetables. Because I feel like a lot of these B grade vegetables are just being composted. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for helping each other out as farmers. And like you said, Heather, educating people. I think this is a great place to start with. Like you said, elementary schools really teach our kids the value of good food. And so that we can help to carry that torch. I think that's one of our jobs. Well, I am about finished with my questions. If anybody else has a question, right now we have Marion and Ling and Geraldine and Asia Myers. If you have any more questions, please go ahead.
Yes, I have a question. It's about the whole thing of education, what you were saying there and what Heather was saying. I wonder if, how much, do you have people that come and visit your farm? I can imagine that could be a real bother. Or do you ever have special kind of study events? There's a really cool guy in Tokyo who goes around teaching kids in schools, mostly in
John Walsh.
Schools. Yeah, now John, he came over and showed me how to do some stuff, which, I'm very slow, but anyway, and I'm all in pots outside my back door. But that, I think that is a great thing if you, can spare some time for it. And I just wonder what you think about that kind of thing. Not, he's in the city, but like getting out there and, getting your hands in the soil and, having fun, mixing in with the bugs as an educational thing.
Well, Marion, for my sake, I do that quite a bit, actually. I not only do tours of my farm, but I also have volunteers who come and stay with me from overseas or Japan for up to 3 or 4 months working with me on the farm. People coming just for the day. I do events where people can come out and learn about farming for a day, just visiting and picking and stuff like that. And I am thinking of starting something of an education program more formally about doing something like that. So that's for me. I don't know about Heather and Chie.
I want to say I'm a control freak, and there's a lot of jobs that I don't like anyone else doing. But I've worked adjacent to woofers a lot. I've worked on with the rice. Like I said, we have like a commune style thing, like a co-op. I don't know how to say it, but like there's about 13 different farmers who all grow organically, and we all get together and make literally hundreds of trays of rice. and we prepare the beds and we do all that. And a lot of the other farms take in woofers, which means when we have these big working bees, they bring in woofers. And to me personally, because I'm, like I said, because I have a particular way I want things done, the amount of time I spend teaching, and then they only work 6 hours a day. And then, I used to have, last couple of years, I've had if you work 3 hours a day, at least once a week, you can grab a box and just fill it up with as many vegetables as you want from the farm. And I had regular people coming once a week. And unfortunately, one became a full-time professor, one went to work for the Olympics, and one became a snowboarding instructor. So work for me, go places is basically. But I need a long-standing relationship, because like when I say you have to hold the beet as you pull any weeds from around the hole, like that's not just like me being pernickety. I really mean, like, if the beet is raised, if it gets air around its roots, it will die, and then the weeding has no sense. So, but I also, on the education thing, I say on my website, I say I'm not certified anything, but I'm an open book. I said, you can turn up anytime, give me 10 minutes, because I might be, but I said, I have an open field and I'm happy to answer any question. I can tell you how I grew, where I grew, like what I grew at any time. Like if any vegetable in your box, I've got, like Chuck said, I can tell you 4 hours of history. Well, the first year I grew those, well, let me tell you. So to me, it's really important to have that openness. I answer a lot of questions during the winter, mostly. Like people will text me questions, or like, how do you grow this? I also share seed. I save a lot of seed, and people said, I love your kale. And I'm like, if you got room on your balcony, I'll send you some seed. Like you'll be able to grow it through the winter. So I'm very open with that, but I don't take on, and people, I'm so bad. People are like, we've got an hour, can we come and talk? And 3 hours later, I'm like, you guys had to go, didn't you? But yeah, so you can come and have a farm tour anytime. But even though I'm overworking myself, I kind of prefer it that way, because yeah, I'm so pernickety about how I want things done. And I love all my vegetables. And when I see people walking on pumpkin vines because they're looking at the pumpkins and not the vines, I'm like, okay, just move. You go and sit in your car, and I'll just pay you in vegetables, and you just sit in your car and leave my vegetables alone.
Oh, Heather, you are so right. When people step on my pumpkin vines, I literally scream inside my head, like, what are you doing? It's so true. It's so true. How about you, Chie? Do you ever have volunteers out to your farm?
Yes, once a month. So a few friends come to help me, but it's difficult to ready like some stuff to please to do this. But what Heather said, I'm so scared. For example, like to put the plant seedlings, they make like a gucha gucha.
Yeah.
So all the time I stay near them and teach them. So once I thought, okay, it's better I do it myself. But on the other hand, I also enjoyed with them to farm. So it's both.
I think that's so true, Chie. I mean, we have our way of doing things. Like Heather said, it's, don't guja guja. It has to be like this. There's a reason it's like this. And I've had people try to seed for me, and they're just terrible at it. They're just like, what did you just do? You just dumped the whole pack in like one area, and then there's the whole rest of the bed. Didn't you see how it was shake? And I realized that I'm not such a good teacher, for teaching that stuff. But I think the only advantage maybe I have above you and Heather for volunteers is I grow such a variety of things. There's always some simple job to do. Oh, you're new on the farm. Okay, you're just going to do weeding in the potatoes, because I know you're not going to pull up any potato plants. And that's a weed, that's a potato. Got it? Go. And in 5 minutes, they're an expert, something like that. Yeah. And I've learned what not to give them jobs to do. And then they ask, "Ooh, can I do that too?" And I'm like, no, sorry.
I'd say you have one other advantage. You're a guy. I call it, I have the 3 strikes. I'm younger than most of the retired people. I'm female and I'm foreign, which means men of a certain age, even if they're ostensibly working for me, go hi, 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 and then
And they do it their
don't
way.
listen to me. And hanging rice the first time is a hard job, but satisfying. Rehanging rice because the thing collapsed because someone didn't do it right. Like, oh man, if I knew where that guy lived, I'd go and spit on his front door. So I think it's a massive stereotype. It's a generalization, but you really are like, a lot of people speak to me in a way like they'll like literally stop their K truck, lean out and go, that row's not straight.
You're
And I'm
doing
like,
it wrong.
did you think I didn't notice the row's not straight? And I saw one time, sometimes I'm a bit naughty and I deadpan the guy and I go, it's actually really hard to get S's, but I think it's going to catch the sun better. I'm like, because I mean, there's no point in telling me that I didn't get the row straight. Like I'm standing in the field, like I can see that, and so yeah, but you have to shake it off. But yeah, I think
Well, then I would be more likely to just criticize him, like, you've got a big mole here. You might have a doctor check that out. It looks a bit...
You don't live at your farm, I can tell.
That's true. But no, being a guy certainly has its advantage.
Yeah.
And plus I carry a big tool when I'm talking to my volunteers, so I'm menacing.
I have a machete and I don't get respect. But you know what? There's a grudging, I mean, over 17 years, I've now got people who go, like, I mean, we're still at the grunt stage, but and the first year that I went and delivered rice to a guy who'd helped me a lot, but had also laughed and told me Moody like 85 times during the season, Moody. And I went and dumped 20 kilos of rice and said, arigatou gozaimashita, osewa ni narimashita. And I was like, stick it. Because I think there's a real sense, and again, you're not just growing your vegetables, you're growing respect in the community, and like things that people are now, and people will now, like we've received machinery from people. We've received like use of fields based on a neighbor going, oh, you got a spare field, they know what they're doing now. And I think that's like a massive like injection of faith that, we're getting there. It might feel like it's failure after failure, but at least from the outside, people are understanding. But yeah, I think you're kind of battling uphill in some ways, especially when the average age of your farmer in Japan is so old.
Over 65, yeah.
And it's JA brainwashing. Sorry, Chie. it's all the, like, but that's the way you do it. I mean, you can't plant on rainy days because the things will rot. Well, I'm pretty sure that was a way for Yomes to get the day off on rainy days, because I plant most of my seedlings on rainy days because it means I don't have to water the seedlings. But when I first started, people would come running over and go, oh, no, Kasado. I'm like, yeah, how? What's the difference between watering a seedling and planting it in the rain? Like there's no logic behind that, but it was like accepted truth in my neighborhood that you can't plant on rainy days.
I'm sorry, we have a question from Asia. Yes, please go ahead.
Hello, so I'm Asia, and I've been living in Japan for 9 years, but I don't want to say a farmer, I'm a new gardener. So this is my 3rd year gardening, and 2nd year, seriously, we bought a nice big house in Gifu, and I have a nice big backyard, and I want to plant and grow organic vegetables for me and my family. But I have not gotten the gist of it yet. Like I'm having a hard time finding sources because I'm from America. And so I can easily find like almanacs like you grow this during this season, you grow this during that season. But for Japan, I haven't found any English guides of when you should be growing what at what time. So I was wondering if you guys had any sources or any type of applications I can use, because right now I'm just like guessing based on American time, like fall in America, you can grow this. Well, it's now fall in Japan, so I think you can grow this, so Do you have any advice
Basically,
on
Asia,
that?
you can follow the same patterns that people do in the States as far as seasons go. You're going to
Mhm.
have to figure out what sort of zone you're in, because a lot of Americans talk about, oh, I'm in zone 5 or zone 11, and that's is when you plant, and these are your dates. There's the climate change big
Yeah.
curveball that everybody's getting thrown. But also, Chie may be able to help you more with this, but JA puts out a planting schedule calendar every year that you
I
can
think,
also look at. And there'll be one available in
Mm.
your area, so it is zone specific.
and I think I'm zone 9. I'm just guessing because like I think I'm zone 9, but maybe Chie can help me because by far the hardest crop I'm having to deal with is my lettuce. Like I cannot grow lettuce from seed to save my life. I always have to go and buy the pre-starter lettuce and then they thrive in my garden, but I can't get them to grow from seed. So also, do you have any advice about that or anything?
What you grow? What do you want to? What vegetable do you want to grow?
Lettuce. So I usually like sunny lettuce is what they call it. And I when I buy it already pre-grown from the home store, it grows really well and I have no problem. But I'm having a big problem growing them from seeds. Like I cannot grow them from seeds at all. I put them in the ground and nothing happens. Or I try to put them in my greenhouse and I get these little tiny things, but then they never mature up. They always end up dying. So I have no idea what's wrong with my lettuce.
Okay. Lettuce, maybe when you seedlings,
Mhm.
it's better to asaku. What is say asaku?
Very shallow,
Yeah, shallow.
Mhm.
If you no, fukaku.
deep.
Too
Yeah,
deep.
sorry.
Yeah.
Too deep, it's difficult to come out.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
so.
tried that.
Yes.
So what I did was is I would hoe the ground and then I would put the seeds, like scatter them nice, like
Yeah.
like salts, just scatter them nicely, and then just take my hand and slowly just cover them on top like that,
Yeah.
and still nothing.
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 Can I suggest? I think lettuce is actually really difficult. There's a very narrow band of germination temperature, and I'm going to
Um,
suggest it is an American resource, but it's very transferable. It's called Johnny's. Chuck, do you know it? Johnny's. Just a moment.
Well, there's Johnny's Seed Company. Yeah.
Yes, Johnny's Seed Company.
His
Okay.
catalog, seed
No.
catalog.
If you go into Johnny's, okay, have a look at their resources tab, and they have for every, like for lettuce, it will tell you germination time. Then they have a seeding calculator. Okay, so the local information you need is your first frost and your last frost date. Now, I can help you later if you tell me your city, but you can find it from the Japan Meteorological Zone, and
okay.
then you type those dates into Johnny's seed calculator, and then it goes down when you need to seed them and when you can transplant them into your garden. And I think when I was beginning, I still have like a plastic folder where I just printed it out, and then I highlighted things. And the really big one is then I would go back and have I don't actually buy a lot of seeds from Johnny's because it's really hard to import seed, but he sells everything, so you'll be able to find sunny lettuce. Then I would find things like the germination temperature to achieve 80% germination, and that's the other thing you have to remember. Even professionals are not getting 100%.
Right.
The professionals consider it a success if they get 80% germination.
Yeah,
And they'll
I'm not
say,
even getting that.
yeah, but I would say that's what the pros get, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then they'll say, this is the band of temperatures that you can sow at. And then they'll give other advice, like some of them, it'll be like, it needs a sandy soil, or it needs to sit on the soil, or soak the seeds in water the night before. So they have all of that information for each seed type. And because it's so frustrating when you try and you don't succeed.
This is my 3rd year trying.
Right, yeah.
It's not working.
So I really think that kind of doing that research really helps with a lot of stuff. I was really surprised how many things I need to start in February in Nagano. It's like I'm literally still shoveling snow, and I've got to start thinking about, for me, peppers. Like Chie and Chuck, I can't grow peppers, colored peppers, paprika at all. Because our nighttime temperatures in summer dip below 20 regularly. And to get a really good colored pepper, from my research, it's nighttime temperatures that helps it color up. So then you stop feeling like such a failure. You're like, well, that's not me. That's Nagano.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would really, I'd look into that. And I think germination is one of the trickiest things. And it hurts so much because then you see, like, you threw some seeds in the compost and next thing you know, you got stuff growing. And you're like,
that's what happened.
Do it.
That's what happened. I volunteer lettuce that I had in the compost and it just grew and I'm like, hey.
But yeah, so I really look into that. And like I said, there's some of them have got really particular bands of temperature, and I remember that lettuce is a lot lower than I thought. So for a lot of places you have to start quite early in spring, or you can start late. Like I don't think it would be too late for you to start now, because
I've started, but
no, but like to start another batch now.
Okay.
And rather, like when I first started, I'd do like 180 tray, and then I'd wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. And first of all, if it doesn't work, you just wasted 180 seeds. And second of all, if it does work, unless you can suddenly start a CSA that week, you've got 180 lettuces to eat. So,
yeah, that's true.
So succession, like do 20 today, wait 3 days, do 20 again. And then over the law of averages, you should find your sweet spot. What was the temperature like? Oh, look, early September didn't work. Mid-September was a success. And then I'd make a note of that. And then next year, I don't even start. I got those free desktop calendars from like the gas guy or the electric guy. And I just wrote down every time I seeded something, and I'd just put a cross if it wasn't up to my standard of what I wanted as germination rates. But it's so much fun. Welcome to the family.
I would also like it if yes.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was going to say something that Heather touched on, but maybe didn't develop enough for you. Is lettuce is very transplantable. My mother-in-law, who's been growing her whole life, taught me this. She said, "Chuck, why are you starting lettuce directly in the bed?" She takes a planter and she takes a whole pack of seeds. Fills the planter with soil almost, sprinkles the packet over it, puts another centimeter of soil over there, waters it, and it starts to pop up. As soon as it's got like 2 or 3 leaves, she literally just plucks it out of the soil, puts it in her garden bed, waters it in, and it's there. And that's it. So starting lettuce directly in where you're going to grow it is not necessary. It's very easy and it's very tough plant to transplant. And what I do often is when I'm too early, is I'll plant it in a big pot, pick out the little babies, put those into large seed trays, and then let that get up to like 10 or 15 centimeters, and then I transplant them into the ground because then the root stock is there, and it takes very much more.
But that would be my little advice. That's why I wish I could show you, because I'm doing 2 experiments at the moment. I have some outside that I've planted outside directly into the ground, and I have some in my greenhouse that I actually have here in my room. I've invested in a little greenhouse and grow lights and everything, and even heating pads. And they're out of the 20 little seedlings in the greenhouse, only 5 popped up. And then outside, I haven't seen anything yet. So that's what I'm saying. I would love it if you guys had some sort of like education hour, because in America, they don't teach us anything about growing. Like they teach us nothing about where our food comes from, how to grow food. Like you have to go to specialized classes. So I'm up here just starting from scratch. Like I don't know how to save my seeds. Which seeds are best to buy, because I'm cheap. I'll just go to the dollar store, the Yakulin shop, and just buy the seeds and start from there. But I'm like, are these good quality seeds? I don't know. So
I wouldn't go to the 100 yen store to buy seeds. It's worth an extra couple dollars for a pack of seeds. But actually, I want Chie to talk about this more, because she's really the lettuce pro, about how she seeds and how she gets her bed started.
Right. So if you guys had like some sort of like education workshop for people like me who are just getting started, I would like greatly appreciate that, because I'm really into the environmental movements. I want organic food, and so I'm a baby.
Heather and I are both members. Are you on Facebook, Asia?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Heather and I are both members of this Japan gardening group.
I just joined not too long ago.
Just put that question out there. You'll get 20 responses in the hour, I'm sure. There's people out there who know way more than we do.
Yeah, and I live in Gifu, Kakamigahara, so it's a little tricky here. Our weather is hot. We tend to be a little warmer in this region. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Thank
good
you.
question, Asia. Thank you very much. I hope you can get some better luck for growing that stuff. Well, we're after 9 o'clock now, so I think it's about time for us to move along. I wanted to first thank Heather and Chie both. Heather, if somebody wanted to contact you, what's the best they would go about doing that?
Probably the best way is on Facebook Messenger, either under Heather Fukase or under Nagano Naturally. But I may not reply until evening because sometimes I'm like out there, got mud on my hands, and someone's like, "Do you have any rhubarb?" And 20 minutes later, they're like, "Hi, I was just wondering if you had any rhubarb." So I usually check my phone in the morning and at lunchtime and in the evening. But yeah, when it's not those times, I might not reply so quickly. So
do you have a website, Heather?
Yes, naganonaturally.com, but it's mostly for like sales and checking out what we do. It's not, I don't really communicate via the website.
Okay, thanks, Heather. And Chie, how about you? If somebody wanted to contact you or buy your vegetables, what would they do?
No.
Don't contact me.
I misunderstand. As I have a website, but in Japanese, only Japanese.
But that's okay. With Google Translate now, people can do it. What's the website?
Hamachie Nouen.
.com?
Hamachie. I forget.
That's okay. Why don't you give it to me later and I'll put it in the show notes, okay? I'll post this on Facebook. I'm going to post some other written information. So I'll post Heather's contact information and yours as well. So you can just send me that when you have time, Chie. Don't worry about it right now. But there is a way to contact you, and that's what I'm sure people want to know. So if you're interested in contacting her, check the show notes at the end of the show, okay? Very good. Now, I wanted to put a special thank you out to Noriko Shindo, who joined us for a bit at the beginning. Actually, I think she was on for about an hour. She's running Eco Local out of Tokyo, which is a great initiative. Check her out online. And she was the one who helped me come up with the wonderful image that we used for our Facebook page. Heather and Chie were suffering through my horrible attempts at creativity, telling me, "No, Chuck, no." And I'm like, okay, I'll ask my friend. She's really good. So thank you, Noriko, for that, and best of luck with Eco Local.
Can you say that name again? Eco Local?
Yes, I think it's EKOLOCAL.
Eco Local. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Noriko Shindo.
Yeah.
So if you put that in the mix, I'm sure the Google will come up with something nearby. And by the way, I'm showing this now on YouTube, and if you're watching on YouTube, thank you very much for checking us out. If you could like and subscribe, that would help me to know that there are people out there who value what I'm putting out there, and it'll encourage me to do it more. I enjoy doing this, but sometimes I need a little extra encouragement because I'm pretty tired at the end of the day. For Midori Farm, if you ever wanted to talk to me, midorifarm.net. You can contact me through my website. I'm also on Instagram and on Facebook, so you can find me there as well. I have regular events. My next event will be a fundraiser, actually at my Keihoku farm. I'm inviting people to come out, and they can visit the farm, they can have lunch, and the buildings that I've taken over there have a lot of old Japanese antiques in them, kimono and other items that I'm selling to raise money to buy my own tiller. because I'm afraid I'm just a bit over my head with using a hoe in Kehoku. My farms are just too big. So I'm hoping to raise money to help me out for next year. Also, we'll have a harvest event in my Kutsuki farm, which is in Shiga Prefecture, on November 6th and or 7th, depending on the weather. We'll be harvesting sweet potatoes, satoimo, which is taro, and kikuimo, which is Jerusalem artichokes. We'll also have a camping event in conjunction with that, with a campfire, barbecues, hiking, and lots of other sharing opportunities. Bring the family or just come as an individual. So if you're interested in those events, please check it out on Facebook or get in contact with me. For Midori Farm and for the rest of us who are in this farming together, thank you very much for joining us. I hope that you're encouraged to reach out to a local farmer, find out what they're growing, if you can buy direct or if you can get their vegetables some other way. Remember that organic farming is not only good for the farmer, but it's good for the environment and the community. And we always are trying our best to make the best vegetables we can in a difficult world where everybody can just go to the convenience store and buy a fresh salad with tomatoes and lettuce any day of the week. It does get a little hard to sell our vegetables. So thanks for your support. And without anything else, I think I'm going to say good evening and thank you very much.